Hello, everyone. Welcome to Maude's Book Club, an online sci-fi and fantasy book club that started, honestly, 11 years ago in its first iteration. Our very first guest that we had on was Patrick Rothfuss, who did The Name of the Wind. And I try to one-up the guests every single time we talk a book. Now, Andy Weir is a name very familiar in the sci-fi community, having written 3 incredible books that Maude's Book Club has covered every single one of them. We started off with Project Hail Mary, and it, to date, has been the most popular book within the book club for, I think, 2.5 years standing. We went on with The Martian, and as we all know, my mum was a guest for that one as a psychologist to talk about the psychological effects of being stranded on a planet alone. And we just wrapped up Artemis last night, talking about what we have dubbed it to be a moon RPG heist as a tabletop game. So to talk about all 3 books today, I'm so excited to welcome Mr. Andy Weir to the conversation for Maude's Book Club today. Andy, thank you so much for giving me an hour of your time to talk about your incredible books. I don't even know where to start off with this.
Thanks for having me, first off.
Do you think it's fair to say that Artemis is essentially like a sci-fi tabletop RPG where everyone gets a bit of a character? You've got a goal in mind. There's a heist that happens. There's quests and missions along the way.
Yeah, I guess that would work well as a tabletop RPG, although usually in an RPG you have like all the characters are equally important, and in this one there's like one, overwhelming, central character. Yeah, it's kind of neat to talk about Artemis. Usually that's just known as Andy Weir's other book.
We've covered every single one of them. And actually, shout out to Terry, who's a member of the community, who has been pushing for your book for, I think, 4 years. And the sell was it's sci-fi with a strong female lead, and it's narrated by Rosario Dawson. Did you ever think you'd land a Rosario for something like this?
No, I am amazed. Like Audible went all in on it. They said, like, we're not messing around. They got Rosario Dawson to narrate it. They did this huge marketing campaign for it. They spent money on it, and I was like, wow, neat. I think it's because they made a lot of money off The Martian, and they're like, let's do that again.
And you're like, you're welcome. The Martian has such an amazing story. You are the champion of self-publishing, and self-publishing done right. All you have to do is write a really good story, and then the people will do the rest. I loved hearing that it was Amazon Kindle that basically brought attention to your book. And then within sort of like a week down the track, you not only signed a publishing deal, but also a movie deal for the book.
Those 2 events happened within a week, which is really cool. Although it was several months after I had posted the book to Amazon.
It was only several months where that happened.
Yeah, well, so I'd been writing the book a chapter at a time and posting it to my website just by myself for 3 years. It took me 3 years to write it. Then I posted it to Kindle, just self-published it to Kindle. And then that was I think I posted it in September, and it was like in February or March that I ended up getting the book and movie deal. So that was very cool.
I feel like if there was a movie of your story, it would just be this snowballing effect of logging on and just seeing these numbers climb and climb. And you're like, my life is about to change.
Well, I didn't really know. Like I saw, like, I self-published it to, Kindle, and I saw it was selling, but I'd set the price at 99 cents, which was the minimum. I just wanted people to be able to get it. I didn't care about making money off of it. And so I'd set it to 99 cents, and then it was selling, but I had no idea if my sales were high or low or middle of the pack. I don't know what was normal. And so I was like, oh, okay, so I sold like 500 copies today. I don't know what that means. I've got it at bargain basement level. It's like it's a buck, right? So, I'm like, I don't know what that means. But there was a mailing group, a chat, whatever, a forum. That's what it is. You're automatically like made a member of this forum when you publish something to Kindle, when you're a new author publishing to Kindle, and like you can see all the authors talking to each other. And so people are like, oh man, I had a great day. I sold 4 copies. And like, oh yeah, with Christmas coming up, my sales are through the roof. I sold like 8 or 9 copies already this week. And I'm like,
and you're like, Andy Weir has left the conversation.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I sold 500 copies today. Yeah, okay, so something abnormal is going on. That's pretty cool.
And I also love your story where it's like, you know, you wanted to be a writer. You always thought that that would be a really cool thing to do. But then you're
Yeah.
like, I like having regular meals on the table. I'm going to go for
Love
a really
regular meals.
and that's not slop, sludge, or gunk.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you were saying, you know, I want to have a steady job. And so you were a software programmer for 25 years.
Yep.
How different?
I'm a very risk averse person. I just don't. I'm not the sort of person who likes to take risks, especially with my personal finances. And I'm a real wuss when it comes to that sort of stuff. But sorry, I drifted off. You were asking a different question.
Well, I was going to just ask, how different is your life? Because I know that once you had that, the movie deal and the book deal, you just kept going to work. Like this was sort of like your family.
Yeah, I really liked my job. I had a good job. My coworkers liked me. My bosses respected me. They liked me, I think. And I enjoy programming computers. It's a thing that I like to do. So I was like, and also while The Martian was like, doing really well on paper, I didn't, it's like, oh, okay, this is doing great, and maybe they're going to make a movie and all this. I didn't know for sure if that was going to happen, and I didn't know if it was going to make me enough money to support myself. So why would I quit a job I like?
That's it.
So ultimately, I stayed with that job until I had a contract to write, well, what turned out to be Artemis. And then it's like, okay, I now can't do both. Like I need to spend all day writing to fulfill this contract. So now this is my job, which is cool. It's what I'd always wanted. And it's like an exciting thing to have your dreams come true. But at the same time, it was kind of bittersweet because I liked my job. And the thing I miss most, I'd say, is having coworkers. I really like being part of a team, and I miss that.
Yeah, writing is a very isolating experience. It's like
it really is.
It's not like a team collaboration. It's like it's your deadline. You have to sit down. You're the one writing. I just want to quickly interrupt this. Currently, right now, and this is actually going to be turned into a podcast. Felicia Day has just raided into this stream. Now, Felicia Day is an author herself. She's the queen of the nerds. So for her to drop by with her very, very large audience for this interview.
Hello, Felicia Day. Hi.
Hello, Felicia. Thank you so much for doing this. For those that have just joined us, I'm interviewing the very fabulous Andy Weir, sci-fi author of Artemis, the Martian, and Project Hail Mary, all three books which we've covered for Maude's Book Club across the years. Chat is absolutely going off. Thank you, Felicia. Really, really appreciate that. KP says she's made our day.
Oh, I see.
Hey, KP Dub's always.
How do I see? Am I able to see the chat? Or
absolutely. If you want to jump onto twitch.tv/Maude Garrett, MAUDE, I can probably link it to you as well. Just make sure that that's muted because it will blast out of those speakers.
I will mute.
But thank you to all the people that are following as well. And then you can see the chat down the side. Oh, fantastic. Who wants to drop Andy Weir a sub so he doesn't have to watch ads?
No, it's okay. In 14 seconds, I'll be in. I just wanted to see the chat.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. It doesn't show me anything that's from there. Well, so what did Felicia say that you said thank you for?
She rated her audience. Which means that she was streaming and she's finished up her stream. And so on Twitch, you can kind of transfer your audience into another person's stream. So we had about 100 and something people watching live. And now I believe it's considerably more than that, thanks to Felicia.
All right. Well, thank you, Felicia Day.
Also, even though we have more of an audience right now, I do just want to do a little housekeeping. Andy, I know you're prone to kind of having some colorful language. Swearing is very welcome on this stream.
Oh, good.
Yeah. You're welcome. Have the best time with that one.
If it comes up.
No harm, no foul over here, that's for sure. Something that I'd love to talk about your books, which I have noticed, and I think after covering something like Red Rising, that series, it's a lot more apparent. You have a very strong belief and an optimistic view on humanity as a whole. I've noticed
I
that
do.
there's a positive overlook when shit's going down, and you truly believe that sort of the world can band together
Hmm.
for, in a cooperative effort to kind of save either the earth or humanity or the people. Where does that unwavering optimism come from?
I'm not sure. I think just if you just look at the history of humanity, we're just such an incredibly cooperative species. I mean, we are really impressive, if I do say so myself as a member of the species. Um, we are inherently, overwhelmingly do more good than harm whenever we have a chance. Like, so if you imagine, you know, imagine somebody slips on a sidewalk and breaks his leg, and some nearby people who don't know him, who've never met him before in his life, call paramedics, and then they come and they take him to the hospital. Okay, that is not a remarkable story, right? That's a thing that is so commonplace and so ordinary, it doesn't make the news, it doesn't do anything. But that inherent drive, if people didn't do that, that would be newsworthy. If people
Right.
saw, like, oh, that guy broke his leg, sucks to be him, and just kept walking, that would be newsworthy, right? So it is so abnormal for people not to be cooperative, not to help each other out. It's so abnormal that that's newsworthy.
I also saw
So
you pose the question as well, like what invention has humanity
yeah,
made that hasn't done more good than bad?
yeah, and I like that. I say that at live events a lot. I say, like, try to name any, not a specific invention, but like any technology that has ever been invented that did more harm than good. And people are like, oh, nuclear bombs. And I'm like, nuclear power. You
Mm.
know, how many people haven't died in coal mines because we have nuclear power? And, whatever, people say, like, well, what about biological weapons? I'm like, okay, if you get super specific, but, bear in mind, biological weapons is just like, applied biology. So the same science that makes biological weapons are the same people who are researching, like, you know, treatments for viruses and stuff like that. And there's a lot more of that going on.
There's a lot more light than the darkness that follows as well. I really
Yeah,
dig
and the
that.
other the other thing I say is, like, just humanity. Like, a lot of science fiction lately has been like dystopian, this bleak view of the future where everybody's miserable, and I'm like, well, that kind of presumes that we are currently kind of at the peak of human civilization, and it's all downhill from here, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, that doesn't seem very likely, because if you look at the last, I don't know, 5,000 years of human civilization, it's just been getting better and better. One question I pose to people
Especially
a
for
lot,
women.
especially for women and minorities of wherever you are, like, um, anywhere you go, one group or another is going to be a minority. So yes, it's much better to be black in America than it was, say, 200 years ago. It's also much better to be a white guy in Asia than it was 200 years ago. you know,
Mm, yeah.
um, but uh, sorry, I dropped my original point. I'm very scatterbrained. I have a
We,
2-year-old son. He keeps me up at night.
oh, I don't envy lack of sleep at all. So you have,
um,
all the grace.
oh, just talking about how, humanity has been getting better. And what I often use as a thought experiment is, I say, I'm a madman with a time machine. I'm going to send you back in time. You can go back any multiple of 100 years, and you can't stay here. That multiple can't be zero. So you can go to 1924, 1824, 1724, 1624. I'll drop you off anywhere in the world you want to be, but
Hmm.
you're going to go back to time, and you're going to be stranded there the rest of your life. So pick now, or I'm going to pick randomly.
I don't know what I would want. You know what? Maybe French Revolution sounds a little bit
Really? You want
di-
to go to,
di-
like,
dicey. It's just not a good. It's also because you have to have classism into effect here. So it's like
well,
there's
so
just so
almost
many.
everyone picks just the most forward year that they can. Like, most people would say 1924.
Well, I'm not most people. That's obvious
I
me
guess
right now.
not. I guess not. But most people would say, like, I would rather live in 1924, right?
Oh, hold on. We've just lost your internet for a sec. It's just dipped
Can you
out.
see me?
Yeah, you're looking a little pixelated, but you might have to start
Okay.
that sentence again, though.
All right. Well, hopefully I'm back.
You're back.
Yeah, I was just saying I would much rather live in 1924 than 1824, right? Like, I'd rather, yeah, it would suck to see a sign in a store window that says no coloreds, but it would be a lot better than seeing a sign in a store window that says slaves for sale,
God, yeah.
you know. So it's just humanity just keeps getting better. And as we invent science, we overwhelmingly use it for good things. And yeah, bad stuff comes out of it, but much, much more good than kids with their heads cut off. Oh my God, AI is going to be the end of us all. Oh God, they've made a chat GPT engine that can sort of answer questions once in a while. That's the end of humanity. I'm like, AI is a tool, just like any other. A hammer. If you give me a hammer, I can build a house or I can kill someone with it.
Yeah.
There's nothing special about the hammer. Everything is about the person using the hammer.
We need more people. We need more Andy Weirs holding hammers, is what I'm hearing.
Well, what I'm saying is that the vast majority of people are like me. The vast majority of people, if you give them a hammer, they think, I could build something with this. They don't think, I could kill someone with this.
True. No, you're right. You see
Maybe
a tool
they
as a
think
tool,
it, but
not
they
a
don't
weapon.
say, like, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and that's, you know what, you can have those thoughts, but never act out on them, please.
Yeah.
The KP
Well,
Dubs is in the.
How about this? Another fun one. Sorry to soak up time on this, but
No?
I say, like, let's say you can eradicate, I say to you, like, oh, you can eradicate any race on the planet. You'd say, like, I don't want to. Yeah.
No.
Some people would answer that, but other people would say, I don't want to. And other people still would be like, does it have to be human?
Like, get rid of the cockroaches.
Or malaria?
Cane toads. I don't like cane toads.
I don't like malaria. It kills more humans per year than anything else. Like, so
I know, people are so scared of sharks.
Yeah.
But malaria will get you.
But it's interesting. So if you give somebody a seemingly evil choice, most people will try to find a way to do good with it anyway.
And I do love that positive attitude with these books as well. I kind of joked that one of the most unrealistic parts of Project Hail Mary was having someone with absolute power not be corrupt. And I think that Strat, because of that, is one of my favorite characters that you've written. I think she was
so fun to write.
I bet. Did I hear correctly?
She's just such a self-insertion fantasy character for me. Wouldn't you love to have that kind of authority? Like, wouldn't you love to just have, like, literally boundless authority when you have an objective that you're trying to get done? Like, get out of my way.
There's so few people that should have that kind of authority. And I think, again, this is the positive spin that Strat was the answer that we needed in that moment, where it's like she did what had to be done. And it's that thing where it's like, do you save one person that you care about, or do you sacrifice that one person to save all of humanity? And it's like, it's not a fun choice. It's not an easy choice. And the fact that she kind of reflects on this going, I'm going to hell for these decisions, but I take full accountability about abilities of my actions, and I wouldn't change a thing because this has to happen.
She said she forced a guy to go off on a suicide mission, and I can tell you she slept like a baby that night. It's just like, this is an obvious thing. This is not something that warrants any long, like, thought process. It's like the value of one person's life against the 8 billion. No
brainer.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But not everyone is equipped to be able to handle that at the same time. I think she's such a powerhouse of a woman.
I had a great time writing her.
Did I hear, because I did a little research here, that Strat was an idea that you had that was very separate to an idea of starting a book of someone in space with amnesia, which was another idea that was conglomerated with Rocky. You had basically all of these ideas dispersed, and you brought them all together for this book.
Yeah, Project Hail Mary is a pastiche of science fiction ideas that I had that I glued together and sanded the seams, and it worked out. I mean, I had one book idea about first contact, and that was one thing. Another one that was involved, like, Strat was, she had a different name in this other book, but she was like, that character concept was was in another book that was a completely unrelated story. And actually that character was like had secret authority. Like nobody knew she existed, but she was like ultra top secret, like, could just, but whatever. That was an interesting character. The idea of a mass conversion fuel came from another source. The idea of waking up aboard a spaceship with amnesia and trying to figure out what's going on was yet another story idea, and so on. I just crammed lots of story ideas in there, and it all worked out.
It worked out so well. I don't often blow smoke, but this is all true. I have rated Project Hail Mary a 6 out of 5. Because if you see it where it's like each star represents about a 20% rating schedule. So I'm like, if a book's between 80% to 100 or 99%, that's a 5-star. But I don't feel like it's fair to put Project Hail Mary against like an 81% book. So it's 6 stars because it's perfect.
Well, thank you.
Do you
also Eridians use base 6, so that's very appropriate.
Yes, love that. It's so funny that you mentioned Rocky because I believe the number one, the number one thing that was said about Rocky is, "I would die for Rocky."
Yes, I had no idea. So I wanted Rocky to be likable, of course, and he is very likable, and he's a good guy, and he's becomes Grace's best friend and all that. I had no idea the tremendous amount of love that readers would have for Rocky. I thought that readers would be like, I identify with Grace. I was deliberately trying to make people identify with Grace because I myself, I'm not the brave sort who would volunteer for a suicide mission. Me being forced to be on a suicide mission seems a lot more likely, You
were what percentage of Rylan Grace were you then?
None. So it was an attempt to make. So Rylan was my first attempt to really make a protagonist that 100% was not based on any aspect of myself.
So you're more Mark Watney.
I'm much more Mark Watney and Jazz Bashara.
Is that right? Because she's sassy.
I'm very, very Jazz, believe it or not. People say superficially, okay, she's a 26-year-old Saudi woman. I'm a 51-year-old white dude. Like, what is the overlap? Our personalities. Like, basically, when I was writing The Martian, Mark Watney is absolutely based on my personality. It's every aspect of my personality that I like, and none of the downsides, none of the stuff about myself that I don't like. He doesn't have any of my flaws. He's good at everything I do, and he's magnified. So whatever I like about myself, he has that quality times 10. And whatever I don't like about myself, he doesn't have that quality at all. So he's the aspirational me. He's what I wish I could become. And Jazz is more like the real me. Like Jazz, like personality-wise, she's much more like the way I was when I was her age. Like, so she's 26 in the book. When I was 26, I was exactly like her. I was like squandering my potential, always trying to do like the shortcut rather than just doing the work. Kind of a disappointment to most of the people I know. Everyone constantly telling me, "You're so smart, why don't you apply yourself?" And me getting irritated at that.
And how is your relationship with your father?
We're estranged. No joke.
There it is. Okay.
Yeah, we're actually.
I was being facetious. We went straight into real.
The daddy issues are real, and they're in there. Yeah. So Jazz is very much based on more the real me, the flawed me. I wanted to make. So Mark Watney was this not a nuanced character. He didn't have any depth. He didn't change at all during his story. People like him. They say, like, at the end of reading The Martian, you're like, I'd like to have a beer with that guy, maybe. I
would argue that he did change. I mean, his focus was surviving, not necessarily growing or thriving, just surviving, and he did it.
Yeah. But at the end of the story, you don't really know much about Mark except like he didn't want to die, and he's got a good sense of humor, right? You don't know like what his dreams are. You don't know anything about his love life, past, future, or present. You don't even know if he's straight. You don't know anything about this guy. Like, by the end of it. So for Jazz, when I was writing Artemis, I wanted to challenge myself. I said, I want more character depth, and I want a flawed character. I want a character who makes mistakes has to get over that. And the most flawed person I know is me. So I'm going to base her on me.
Right.
And that's where Jazz comes from. Now, Ryland was, I said, okay, for my next attempt, I'm going to try to make a character that for once isn't just a stand-in for me, isn't just my own personality. One interesting thing about Jazz is, like, there was a lot of criticism of Artemis because a lot of people had a hard time rooting for Jazz because she's so kind of self-destructive. She is the instrument of most of her own problems.
I described her as morally grey but ethically sound.
Yeah, I would say that that's a fair assessment, but also she can be hard to root for because you're like, you wouldn't be in this mess if you hadn't done this thing. You know, nobody's forcing this upon you. I don't like you. And when you start not liking the main character, you start not enjoying the book because you're having a tough time rooting for her. And so that was my mistake. I made her a little too flawed. So what I've learned from this is people love the idealized version of me. The real me, they don't like quite as much. But yeah, the one thing that did bug me though is when people were saying that, and I mean some of this I'm sure is true, but saying like, well, she's not realistic as a woman, and I'm like, one piece of criticism that I've heard here and there that drives me crazy is anything that begins with quote, "no woman would," and I just whenever someone says that, I'm going to say, I'm going to cut you off right now. There's 4 billion women on this planet. I guarantee you, whatever you're about to say, there are some women who would. Right?
We don't all fit under the one umbrella so smoothly like that.
Yeah, women are not a monolithic entity, right? And so I've had a lot of people say, "Oh, no woman would say this. No woman would say that." And I'm like, I got that quote from a woman. Like, so you said I'm welcome to swear. Like going back to the Martian, Annie Montrose is the NASA's public relations director. She was played by Kristen Wiig in the movie. In the book, she was much more central than she is in the film. And at one point, she's pissed off about something, and she says, "Fuck me raw," in the book. She says that. And somebody emailed me and said, like, I like this character, but no woman would say that. And I learned that expression from a woman that I knew. Like, I had never heard that before. It was a woman I knew in college. She would say that just as a general, I'm pissed off thing. I'm like, I like that. I'm stealing that.
Fuck me stupid was another one in my vernacular.
Fuck me stupid. There's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm quite brilliant. So yeah.
It would take a lot. It would take a lot of work.
That's women, you know, but I kind of love that. But you know what? The fact that you've just subtly slipped into a sentence, oh, you know, that character played by Kristen Wiig in the movie, that is such a fantastic flex. And I want to talk about Project Mary being turned into a movie also. You've got two of the biggest, funniest directors at the helm of this project that everyone's trying to get their hands and claws on.
Lord Miller, yeah.
Did you see Ryan Gosling as Ryland Grace?
I didn't imagine Ryland Grace as, I mean, I didn't imagine Ryland as being so fucking
ridiculously
gorgeous.
Good looking. Yeah, literally Ken.
I mean, I'm straight, but everyone has their limits, right? And they're exceptional cases.
Oh, I've interviewed him a handful of times, and when I tell you, I was barely keeping it together.
Barely keeping it together. Okay.
But I am a professional.
Yeah. You are a professional.
I really am.
Maybe he could fuck you stupid. Like maybe.
I mean, a gal can dream. He's definitely married with 2 girls. But, you know, I believe that this is a standard thought that many women and men have.
I think so. He's a very handsome man. So I had never imagined Ryland Grace as being just stunningly handsome, right? But other than that, yeah. I mean, if you look at him, Ryan has played a lot of like really hilarious humor roles. He's known for like these epic movies like The Notebook and stuff like that. But when you look at his more like what is it, The Good Guys? I mean, he's funny. he's really funny. Yeah.
He's quite subtle with his humor. Like he's very nuanced in it. And I think that that's why Ken was such a delight, because he was so camp. And it was like I'd never it was brilliant. So it's like, boy's got range.
Oh yeah. It's kind of like going way back in time to The Great Race. 1960s movie with Jack Lemmon, Peter Falk, Natalie Wood, and Tony Curtis. Anyway, Jack Lemmon, up till that point, had always played these really calm, understated characters, usually comedy, but usually kind of like a nervous little guy, and stuff like that. And in that, he's this genuinely melodrama villain, like with the handlebar mustache completely over the top.
And it's so much fun for them.
Yeah.
So
Anyway.
Ryan Gosling's going to be Ryland Grace.
And they have the same initials, so it's Fate.
Yeah, I like that a lot. He could give primary school science, junior high science teacher for sure, like world's resting. Yeah. He actually has played an astronaut before. So he's done a lot of work with, I interviewed him for that movie at the NASA space station, by the way. That was a real treat. Nice. I'm not really a science kind of gal. In fact, the most science I've ever learned is reading your books, because you have made science so digestible for people like me who's so focused on character. But all of a sudden I'm learning about relativity. I'm learning about biology. I'm learning, all of these sorts of things. How important was it for you? Because science is your hobby. And I think that's fascinating. I was like, this guy's got 3 master's degrees, 2 PhDs, the way he's talking about. This is just a hobby of yours.
Yeah, I have a high school diploma. That's my accreditation.
Same. And look at us now.
That is my highest level of accomplishment scholastically. It's just everybody is more knowledgeable than average at the things they are passionate about. So if you're way into cars, you know more about cars than the average person. If you're way into sports, you can name the entire starting roster of the 1968 Mets. I'm into space dork stuff, so I know more than the layman about that. And it allows me to know enough to look up the things I don't know and work from there when I'm doing research.
Now, I remember when you were writing The Martian, your core audience that you were building from your website were other science nerds, and they were happy to kind of chime in and be like, that's not it. Actually, it's this. And John Green was one of them, I believe. Was it for Project Hail Mary? He's done a video. Author John Green has done a video.
Green, maybe?
Was it Hank?
Oh, John Green.
Hank.
John Green. No, the younger brother. The one who's
Jank.
Beating cancer. The one who's beating cancer. I think, is it John?
Chat's going to let us know in 30 seconds. I've dropped the ball big time here. I've just called him.
Hank is a science nerd.
It's Hank. So Hank was able to correct you and is wearing that like a badge of honor. But I also heard that if you're not right with something, you love being corrected with true information.
Yes.
But if someone comes at you correcting you with false information, there's a voodoo doll in place. Yeah.
So for me, it's like, people will often ask me, does it bother you that nerds crawl out of the woodwork and say, actually? And I'm like, no, I love that because I bring it on myself. I threw down the gauntlet by saying my story is scientifically accurate. So if it is, you get to call me out on it. And I absolutely love that because I learn things. I learned things that I never would have known before because I get like subject matter experts coming out of nowhere telling me, well, you're wrong here. I'm like, okay, why? And they tell me why. I'm like, that is cool. I didn't know that. I'll give you an example. In The Martian, he reduces hydrazine fuel and to make just basically to get the hydrogen so he can make more water. He does all that with the reaction that I described. That I looked up. It's like hydrazine, you run it over a catalyst of iridium, and then that releases it hopefully without exploding too much, and so on. He blows himself up a little bit, but that's not relevant to this. Anyway, during the course of the book, I described with enough detail the total volume of the HAB. Like I'd mentioned the dimensions of the HAB, the height, its rough shape. So this one guy was able to calculate, okay, this is the total internal volume of the HAB. And the HAB is capped at like 1 atmosphere of pressure, and it has like an Earth-like air inside. And he did this hydrazine reaction, and he did like 600 liters of hydrazine or something like that over the course of a few hours, did all the math. And he said that would increase the temperature of the HAB by like 300 degrees Celsius.
So he would have burned alive.
He would just burned alive.
Oh,
And so he sent
Mark,
that to
bad
me and he
day.
sent all of his numbers. And I'm like, that is really cool. I never thought of that. Of course, he wouldn't just keep doing it. He'd say, wow, it's getting hot, you know, so, but
What?
right. And I realized that it's actually a very easy thing. Had I known, it would have been a very easy thing to fix. I would have said, like, he just turns off the heater because the outside is extraordinarily cold. There's plenty of places for heat to go. So it would have been trivial for him to deal with that. But it's just like I never would have, I never would have known that if someone hadn't told me.
That's the thing about math and science. There's an answer. There's
Hmm.
always going to be somewhat of an answer there. But you're like,
You
for the
use
sake of my
math in the
story.
singular. You use math in the singular. You've been in America too long.
I have. I always fight about this as well because it's maths, because it's mathematics, because there's more than one number. If we're just exclusively talking about the number 2, that is math. But any
That
more
is
than
a
that,
math.
that is a math.
So would you ever use a fashion? That's a math. I would like to have one math, please.
I love that you called me out on it, though. It wasn't soft at all. But talking about all this research and the research that you do, you were saying that it's your favorite part of writing a book. It's the creation, the ideology, like the ideation. It's like, this is what I want to do. I'm going to research. I want spreadsheets. I've got data.
Oh, yeah.
Now, some of the information we haven't been privy to, because you said that no one wants to know all this stuff. It's the Eridian biology. You were saying that you've documented how Rocky's muscles
How
work.
the muscular system works, how their
That his brain is made of crystals, a solid crystal state. What do you mean we don't want to know about this? I want to know everything about this.
Well, you can find it online. I posted the document out there. If you Google around, you can find it. I made a document for my own notes, so it's kind of rough. You know, it's not really made for public consumption, but just how the Eridian biology works. I think I posted it. Somebody had recommended that I post it to Speculative Evolution, which is a subreddit.
Yeah.
You can find it with a Google search, I'm pretty sure. And it's a whole document that I wrote. So anybody who wants the deets, you know.
Well, what's your favorite fun fact? Like, what's the favorite that you made it and it didn't make it into the book, but you're like, this is so freaking cool.
Well, they're basically steam powered. The way their muscles work is they have 2 circulatory systems. They have what I call the ambient circulatory system and the hot circulatory system, and they're 2 separate circulatory systems that don't share fluid, and it's mostly their blood is mostly mercury, by the way, liquid mercury, with other things dissolved in it. But anyway. The hot circulatory system is kept higher than the boiling point of water at their pressure. At 29 atmospheres of pressure, the boiling point of water is like 210 degrees Celsius. And so the HCS is hotter than the boiling point of water, and the ACS is colder than the boiling point of water. So the way that they flex muscles is they have, where they want muscles, it's basically like these little sacs that have like water in them, among other things, that will expand when the water like boils, when it becomes a gas, and then contract when the water condenses again, when it liquefies. And so to activate it, they either expose the hot circulatory system or the cold circulatory system to it to turn it on and off, just with like capillaries, you know, enlarging or. See, this is the universal symbol of capillaries enlarging. I think it's very clear.
Yeah, obvious.
Well, you imagine a bunch of blood vessels going around a thing, although all of their blood vessels are kind of solid objects that are like hinged, like they have tubes. Everything in an Eridian, the whole Eridian body has they weigh about, if you put one of them on Earth, he'd weigh about like 400 kilograms. But there's only like 2 or 3 kilograms of actual biological material.
Because the rest is the crustacean form?
Broadly speaking, an Eridian is like a colony of cells that built a city around themselves. So in the same way that your hair, your fingernails, your teeth are not living tissue, your body made them, and then it uses them, but it's not living tissue. Most of an Eridian is not living tissue.
And I loved that you really developed the culture of the Eridians as well.
Somewhat. I developed just enough culture that the reader thinks there's a whole culture back there that they're not privy to.
Okay. I want to echo Catch 22 sentiments in the comments saying, this is fucking fascinating. In fact, my dog's doing the same thing. We're loving
Oh, what
this
kind
one.
of dog?
Zelda, I usually have a dog cam on my interviews as well. Zelda is a Dachshund Cross Spaniel. Come over here, darling.
Trying to put
How
that in.
important it. So I'll show you her. Come here, darling.
Okay.
The fact that the majority of people who have read the book would die for Rocky, how important is it for the movie to get it right? And how much of a say do you get over it?
So important. So everyone, absolutely everyone involved in the movie understands that core thing. We have to get Rocky right. Rocky has to work. It has to really, really work. And like everyone understands that is far and away the most important thing. So don't worry, or maybe do worry, but know that that is the top priority. They're not changing. I can tell you this: they're not changing anything. They're not making him like. They're not suddenly going to make it so he's comfortable in our atmosphere. They're not going to say like, well, instead of a pentapedal rock spider, maybe it could be a hot blue-skinned woman. No, they're not. None of that.
Good. That's like Max Rebo and one of the Twi'leks combined in Return of the Jedi. That's what I got straight away. But I mean, I'm glad that that's not happening. How many discussions have been?
I like doing so. My son, who's 2 years old, when he refuses to put his pants on, his little stretchy pants, which he does all the time, he's like 2. I put him on his head and say, "Twi'lek."
Oh, I love that.
It's an elastic band, so he's got the two things. I'm like, "Twi'lek."
That's cute. How many conversations have you had about the movie? Are you kind of like a consultant in this role?
I'm a producer.
Okay. Oh, right.
Yeah, so cool. I'm actually a producer on this one, so I do have a lot of influence. The main reason I'm a producer is because I wanted money. And so when I was selling the book rights, I said, like, I want front-end gross. I want not back-end points, which are always 0. I want a percentage of, like, ticket sales. I want front-end gross. And
nice.
I told my agent, well, tell the studios who are interested that that's what I want. And most of the studios came back and said, we don't do that for writers. We do that for stars, producers, directors, but not for writers. Writers are, of course, filthy, disgusting little mud creatures that deserve nothing. Right. But MGM really loved it and said, we don't do that for writers either, but we can make him a producer.
That's amazing.
So that's why I'm a producer, was for the money. So I try to stay out of the way of the real producers so that they can do their job without my interference or anything like that. I just kind of rubber stamp anything that they ask me to. But I offer my opinions and they have to listen. And so, like, for instance, I had to approve us, like, signing Ryan Gosling. Like, I'm like...
You got to say no to him if you wanted to?
Why would I say no?
I reckon that's such a score.
Yeah, yes. Actually, today is it's interesting that we're doing this today, because it was just today announced the release date of the film is going to be March 20th, 2026.
Okay, so that's just under 2 years from today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we haven't shot any scenes yet, so we got to get started.
That's wild how they do that. They're like, okay, it's going to come out this day, and so it's like, right, you've got the finish line. Like, you set the goalpost. You got to start running. Like.
Yep. Well, we've already got. I mean, we've got the studio space and everything like that. Shooting begins June 3rd in the UK. So. Have
you cast Strat?
We have an offer out to someone. But I don't know. Okay. I mean, I can't say who.
No. I'm not going to try and get a scoop like that. It would be lovely, but I know I respect the process here. So June 3.
June 3rd is when we're starting shooting.
Are you going to be on set the whole time?
I don't know. I'm definitely going out there for at least a couple of weeks. It depends a lot on my wife. Basically, my wife is trying to decide. She kind of likes the idea of just going to England for a few months.
Nice.
She really loves it there. She loves it. She has family there. So we're kind of deciding, if it's just me, then I'll just go for 2 weeks, because I don't want to leave her to take care of the baby like for a long time. If we all go out there, her, me, the baby, her mom probably would come with us, and so on, then I would probably stay for the whole shoot.
That's so cool. Has Ryan reached out to you? Have you had a chat with the Goz?
Sure, the gauze, as I call him. No, we've spoken several times. He's very nice. It's not like, he calls me for long heart-to-hearts or anything like that, but we've had a few phone conversations. Seems really cool. He really likes the book. He's funny. He's a smart ass. So, like, we were on the phone once, and I said what I wanted to say was like, yeah, you get with this role, you actually get to be like emotional, and you get to be upset, or you get to be like, you get to really show it instead of just sad Ryan Gosling looking out a window. You get, well, that's what I meant to say, but what I said was sad Ryan Reynolds. Because I screwed up and I said Ryan Reynolds looking out the window. He didn't say anything. Someone else on the call said, "You mean Ryan Gosling, not Ryan Reynolds?" I'm like, oh crap.
I mean any Ryan. I need all the Ryans are applicable.
And Ryan was like, "Don't worry, it happens all the time." I was like, "Yeah, I meant the other Canadian Ryan. Sorry." It's like, and so that came and went. Anyway, when the movie got green-lighted by Amazon, he sent me an email. Ryan did. He sent me an email and said, like, "Dear Andy, just thought I'd drop you a line to say I'm really looking forward to making this movie a reality. We're going to have a great time shooting it, and I'm sure it's going to be very successful. Your friend, Ryan Reynolds."
Oh, that's so funny. I love that they can take a joke. You just have to call him like Reynolds from now on, and then it evolves into Bert.
We're going to need a coin jar or something for, called Ryan Gosling, Ryan Reynolds, 25 cents every time somebody does it. Such an easy mistake to make.
That's so cool, though, that it's like, didn't take it personally, I suppose. That would be so terrible.
Not at all.
We do that kind of stuff all the time, though, Maybe he'll just start calling you Randy or something, Everyone's names just evolve. Randy. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Not a lot of famous Weirs out there, though. I think there's a figure skater, right? I think that's about it.
You would know way more than I would know.
It's been my name for some time now.
Yeah. Let's hope so. I wanted to talk a few questions from the audience. Now, you say that not as many people talk to you about Artemis, so because we've just covered it for the book club, I wouldn't mind punching through some quick fire questions to get these questions out of there. Katie Dub says, NASA's...
7, Peru, the Battle of Gettysburg, and Pi. Those are my answers.
Whoa! How far can you go with Pi, by the way? This is one of my flexes. 3.14159265358 89793323. You got more than that?
No.
Yes.
I can't go too far. I do. I was doing an interview once, and the sound tech was like, I don't know why, but he's like, yeah, I've memorized Pi to like 500 decimal places. And I was just like, save some women for the rest of us, man.
Yeah, well, I completely understand where he's coming from. Like,
dude, that would do it. That would do it for you. You'd be like, "Are you free tonight?"
500? Yes, it would. I was like, you know what? That won't impress many people, but here I am, the right person for this. Okay, so KP Dubs has said NASA's current plan for returning to the moon is called the Artemis mission. It seems like they came up with that name right around the same time that your book was published. Is there any relation? You influenced by them, or them influenced by you that you know of?
It came out sometime after my book came out. So, however, there's no influence. I'm at least I assume not. Artemis is a fairly obvious name for a lunar mission. Artemis is the Greek goddess of the moon, and she's Apollo's twin sister.
Got it.
In fact, some people might question, why would you name a lunar mission Apollo? Because he's the god of the sun.
It's patriarchy, Andy.
I guess so.
Bernadette has said, I love the concept of making oxygen out of harvesting moon rock. Where did this concept come from? Is creating oxygen from moon dust even possible?
Absolutely. There's an enormous amount of oxygen on the moon, so much so that if you were smelting aluminum, so if you just go to the lunar highlands like you do, and you pick up any rock that's on the surface, there's about an 85% chance you picked up a mineral called anorthite. Anorthite is made of aluminum, silicon, calcium, and oxygen. That's what it is. So when you smelt it, you get those elements out separately. So you can collect a bunch of anorthite, smelt it, and then you'll have a bunch of aluminum to make your moon base with, and a bunch of oxygen to fill it with. It's like the moon is made out of moon bases with some assembly required. It's like God is saying, come on, do it. And so it's great. In fact, you would make so much oxygen, you'd have to like vent it. You would have more oxygen than you'd know what to do with.
The science is sound. I
The
heard
science is
that
absolutely sound.
you predicted that man would colonize, move to become a part of Mars by 2055. Do you think we're more likely to
first set foot on, not
first set
colonize?
foot?
Yeah. First humans on Mars would probably be in the 2050s, is my guess.
I see colonize as the flag in the soil, but I guess you're so right. It's
if we've colonized the moon, then, but yeah.
Okay. So when will we build out? Were we more likely to build out on the moon in an Artemis-esque style facility?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, then on Mars? Yeah, because, I mean, it's so much easier. It's so much closer. I mean, if you were on a football field, and I mean American football, young lady.
Football.
If you're on an American football field, if you were standing at one goal line, if Mars was at the other goal line, the moon would be 10 centimeters in front of you.
Whoa. Okay.
So that's kind of a sense of scale of how much easier it is to get to the moon than it is to get to
You've
Mars.
also used coins as a sense of scale to describe the universe, I believe.
Yeah, if you scaled down, not the universe, but just our galaxy.
If
you scaled our entire solar system down to the size of a quarter, so the orbit of Neptune is now shrunk down to the size of a quarter, the Milky Way galaxy would be about the size of the United States.
That's just so big.
Just monumentally huge.
And using that theory, you're saying that there is likely life out there. It's just that they have not come in contact with us and will likely never get in contact with them because we simply cannot travel that far. How are we going to crack breaking the light speed?
So the sci-fi author in me, I assume I will eventually cave and write a book where people can go faster than light. But the real me, my deep, dark, sad little soul believes that it is genuinely impossible to send information or matter faster than light by any means. And I think that is a barrier that can never be broken. It's physically impossible. So no, there could be an advanced alien species just 10,000 light years away, and we literally have no way of even saying hi.
You just put it out there. Your words, not mine. I could write a book about. Are you thinking about writing more?
Am I writing more? No, I've written these 3 books. That'll be all. Yeah.
Okay. I was like, but no. So you
I'm working on my next book now. Yeah, and yeah. Well,
now I know you don't like sharing about it. No, I'm not going to ask anything about it. But is it going to be separate? Are these worlds connected?
It's separate. It's another standalone story.
Okay.
It's not a sequel to any of my prior works. I did, it's funny. It's like I've got ideas for sequels to Project Hail Mary, but they need to percolate more. Mm-hmm. And I've also, and then I had a lot of ideas. Like when I wrote Artemis, I wanted that to be like the start of something. I wanted to write a whole series of books that took place in Artemis. Like each one would have a different main character. So the next one was going to star Rudy.
Give me Rudy. Whoa, yeah.
Rudy is the main character solving a murder mystery. And I was going to call it's the best title I've ever come up with. It was going to be called Murder on the Moon, which is
love it.
Gives you that feel of like an Agatha Christie style novel.
I was just about to say, she'd be so proud of you.
I looked it up. Nothing there. No, nobody's named a book that. Nobody's named a movie that.
I think maybe because no one's murdered anyone on a moon yet that we know of. But let the conspiracy theories fly.
Yeah.
A question. Oh no, you go.
Oh yeah, you go back to audience questions. That's fine. I'm done.
Well, Terry here says, are Artemis and the Martian part of the same universe timeline?
Do they present evidence?
No, it's just if yes, are you considering naming one of the bubbles Artemis Watney? So, but like, if this is taking place in the future.
The short answer is I left clues to indicate that they are. To actually answer his question, no, they wouldn't name a bubble Watney because the bubbles are named after the Apollo astronauts.
Got it.
And so, I mean, a lot of people have been to the moon by the time people are on Mars and stuff. So no, they wouldn't name things Watney. Now, maybe in the future, something on Mars would be named Watney in that continuity. But I would say, so here's the thing. I can't officially state that the Martian and Artemis take place in the same continuity, because that would mean that one of that Artemis is a derivative work, and that would activate a bunch of contracts.
Right, got it.
But I can say that the groundskeeper of Aldrin Park in Artemis is about 80 years old. You never find out what his name is, but somebody says, "Isn't your name Mike?" And he's like, "Nope." And he says he likes plants and he used to travel a lot for work.
That is such a great Easter egg.
A lot of people have already caught it and emailed me about it. So.
Not me. Didn't even think that. That is fantastic. All right. So there is a chance that, the needles are threading somewhat, but just not contractually. Got it.
I'm not really working on a Weir cinematic universe. I'm just,
Not yet.
just writing my books.
How exciting.
I can tell you that Project Hail Mary definitely does not take place in either of those other two books. Continuity.
Well, yeah, because the world's ending, so that's not a bad thing. That it's very
both
separate.
of those books take place in the future. I think somebody would have mentioned, "Oh yeah, remember when the world ended in the 2020s?"
Also, the way you've written Project Hail Mary, there is a lot of time that Ryland is not privy to, and in fact, he's questioning the things that could have happened, would have happened.
He doesn't know what happened after he left. Yeah,
and we would like to know. It does lend itself sort of
that is an obvious avenue for sequels, and I have ideas in that area.
But it would be a catastrophe, and it's very anti-optimistic.
Is it?
Well, yeah,
it can be pretty optimistic if it's about how people are dealing with a catastrophe.
But I just finished the book last night. It was said in there that, humanity, like there is no way that sort of America would just let half of their population die so that other countries would be able to keep half of their population alive. They would be pooling resources, wars would happen, countries would turn against each other. But we also
I'm imagining we'll break up into factions based on colors. So there'll be the golds, right? And then there's the reds.
Wait, I should write this down. This is really good.
This is just, it's genius. No one's ever thought of this. So just.
How do you do it? Also, shout out to Pierce Brown. He's the reason why this interview is happening. We have covered 5 of his books. We are currently in the midst of reading Dark Age together as a community, and we'll be interviewing him in about a week and a half to talk about Red Rising's series. Guessing
hi.
You're a fan. I will actually. I'll say a big hello. And I do think it's so funny that for his sort of worldview on if people do have power, they become horrible people. Whereas you're like, no. If you have power, you bring them all together.
I got into sort of a unexpectedly heated argument with Veronica Roth about that.
Really?
Yeah, we were all a bunch of us were all together, having a dinner and stuff like that. It was because of the Forward collection that Blake Crouch put together. We were all authors of short stories in there, and she just was not on board with the idea of humanity being inherently good. She's like, "No, it's crap," and I'm like, "No, it's good. It's crap." And we just kind of got into it. I mean, she's wonderful. We had a great time, but it was funny that we were
That's just so interesting.
You can just read our books and see exactly where we'd be.
I mean, hers is not so much. Well, it's faction based. It's power based. Veronica Roth, if you don't know, the Divergent series.
Yes.
Also had the movie deal, so that's so funny that it's good sci-fi. Blake Crouch, one of my favorite sci-fi authors, he single-handedly
Dark
sent
Matter
me
coming soon.
I know, Joel Edgerton, Aussie.
Yeah, Aussie.
I can't.
But that's
have you seen it yet?
We'll like him anyway. And I have not seen it. I got to go to the set. I got to watch him shoot a few scenes, but it was out of context. I didn't see the screenplay of that episode, so I had no idea what was going on. But I'm like, that's neat. Because they were shooting it. I'm in the Chicago area, and they shot the show here. So
no way.
I went there. Yeah, I went there, hung out with Blake for an afternoon. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I'd love to get Blake on the show. He single-handedly sent me into an existential crisis where I couldn't let go of the fact of if Maude from another world walked in that door, would she look at me and be like, hey, all right, well done you? Or would she be like, honey, oh, well, you tried. And I just
Well,
couldn't.
there's no good answer for that, because if she's impressed with you, if she's like, wow, you've done a lot, she might want to kill you and take your place.
Yeah, right?
And if she's like, oh my God,
Wait, would Maude
this
want
is
to kill
awful.
Maude though? I'd like to think Maude wouldn't want to kill Maude. Maude would be like, I'll do night shifts, you do day shifts, like let's be smart
Wow,
about this.
you
Yeah.
guys are cooperative mods. I don't know if
I'd like to think so.
I guess I've just never been a huge fan of me. So
This is like actually quite paralytic. Like it's the parallels here where it's like
yeah,
you have so much faith in humanity, but if
but
it was
not
like
nearly as much
in
in
the
my own.
individual, that's it. Whereas I'd be
Well,
like
in myself.
in yourself. Maybe that's a really great
There's-
book
I'll leave
concept.
you with
Not
this, because
telling
we're
we're a bit
approaching
over.
the end, I guess, here. But yeah, but I'll leave you with this. I forget who told it to me, but it's basically give a man a book, you entertain him for a night. Teach a man to write, you give him crippling self-doubt for life.
And on that note, write a book today. Andy, thank you so much for joining me and to talk about these books. It's been an absolute chat. Thank you for telling us updates on the movie as well. I have a feeling the next couple of years are going to be even bigger for you. Congratulations.
Well, thanks so much.
We'll be celebrating you every single step of the way. Make sure if you haven't yet, join Maude's Book Club. We've got a Discord link in the chat right now. Join the community. We do frequent giveaways. We've got membership benefits as well. Andy, hopefully we'll hear a lot more from you and the movie updates soon as well. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.